Hey guys, how y'all doing? Wanted to do a quick video here and I can't believe I forgot to set up my screen. Doggone it. There we go. Allow. All right. Whoops, let me get back over here. I wanted to talk about a couple of programs really quick while I've got a few minutes between going home and my studies. And as you know, since all the recent school shootings, there's been a lot of talk about how to uh, to infringe on our liberties, to infringe on our rights. More gun control, more gun control, more gun control. More money for schools. We need to put in metal detectors. We need more police officers in our schools. We need all this kind of stuff. And the simple fact is that is very expensive and unnecessary. We already have two programs here in Texas. Good afternoon, everybody. Here in Texas, that we can implement right now to protect our students, to protect our kids from these people that are crazy going in there and shooting up schools. So I wanted to make a quick video here. I don't think this is going to be very long, but what I'd like you to do with this video is take it to your school districts and explain to them, hey, look, these are the options. You know, when you go to a school board meeting, please, please, please go to a school board meeting. Go to your school board meetings and demand that they do something about protecting our students. And you can arm them with this information that I'm going to give you here today. And we're going to talk about two separate laws. One's called the Guardian Program. One's called the Marshall Program. One is much more expensive than the other, and one really could cost nothing or very minimal cost if a school were to cover the cost. But regardless, both costs are much less than it would cost the taxpayer to put cops into schools and to have cops manning metal detectors and to really create a police state within the walls of our schools. So the first one that I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to actually show y'all here the actual law. Whoa, hang on. That's not what it's supposed to be. Why did that not share like it was supposed to? Hang on. Share screen. Share screen. Which one is this here? There we go. Okay. There we go. All right, so these are the two laws that I'm going to talk about. This is the Guardian Program, which falls under Texas Government Code 411-1901, and then you've got the Marshall Program, which falls under Texas Education Code 37.0811. And I'm going to go first into the Marshall Program because the Marshall Program is a little bit more in depth. And I will tell you that very few school districts, I think the number is like 17% or 15% of Texas school districts have opted for either one of these programs to allow people to be armed. Now, under the School Marshal program, the board of trustees of the school, or if it's a charter school, whoever the governing body is of that school, may appoint. And this is something that we're going to fight for next legislative session. We need to get rid of this may stuff. We need to get rid of the options that the law gives for school boards to allow people to defend themselves. Now, this one I'm not so concerned about, the may appoint. But, when we get to the Guardian Program here, I'm a little more concerned because, again, may. You could do this, but the school has to allow it. And if the school doesn't allow it, then it doesn't matter what you've got here. So we need to make it to where the school districts have no choice but to allow, at a minimum, licensed carriers to be able to defend their students and themselves. So first of all, what does it take in order to get into the School Marshal program? Well, first of all, the school board has to approve it, or the governing body of a charter school has to approve it. And then once that school marshal or marshals, it can be as many people as they want. They have to go through a very rigorous program, but it allows them to carry a concealed handgun on the premises of the school. As you know, state law does not, if you have a license, you can literally carry a gun right up to the front door of a school and it's not illegal. But under this program, if you're an identified school marshal, you're allowed to carry a concealed handgun on the premises of a school. Now, that school has to have written regulations, and that school marshal is only permitted to carry that firearm at a specific school. So I've kind of highlighted that here. At a specific school is where that marshal is allowed to be. Now, there's nothing that keeps the board of trustees from naming different schools for a particular school marshal. So the board of trustees can say, "Hey, CJ, we are appointing you as a school marshal for every school in TISD," and then name each and every school. It can do that as well, and it allows them to create. Now, this written policy has to say, okay, what can the school marshal do? Can he carry the handgun on his person? Can he have it as long as it's in a locked and secured area, or can he have it in another locked and secured area to bring into the school? That kind of thing. So the school policy has to. This is not very flexible. It's a very rigid process to do this. And then it allows them, of course, to use a handgun in any situation in which deadly force would be justified. And then here's the other thing: is the identity. This is important. The identity of school marshal is confidential, but a parent does have a right. If a parent wants to know, are there school marshals in my? You can do this right now. You can go to, for example, Austin Independent School District, Coppers Cove Independent School District, Temple Independent School District, whatever, and say, it's got to be a written request, and say, does Temple ISD have any employees that are approved under the school marshal program? Now, the school can tell you yes or no, and they're supposed to tell you yes or no. If they do, they're supposed to say yes. They can't lie to you and say, oh, no, we don't have any of that. But what they cannot do is tell you exactly, oh, yeah, yes, we do have school marshals. And by the way, it's CJ and Greg. Those are our school marshals. They can't do that. The identity of the school marshals is confidential. The school can't give out that information. Now, the problem with the school marshal program is that it's incredibly expensive. And I'm going to use the number 5 for the purposes of both of these, just as a way to compare what the cost would be to the taxpayer. It's over $30,000 because the state has required, and I think I've got, let me see if I've got this up. Yeah. Oh, where'd it go? Nope, that's not it. Hang on. Let me find the program here. I just had it up. There it is. In order to go to become a school, why is that not showing up? It's supposed to show my whole screen over here. Let me give you another share here. Okay, let me just do screen 2. How's that? There we go. I'll just do it that way. Ugh. So in order to become a school guardian, these are the things that have to be done. So, of course, you've got to have them appointed. They've got to be appointed. They've got to get fill out an application through TCOL. The candidates must be an employee of the school or the college to be a marshal, and they must have a valid license to carry in Texas, a Texas license to carry. Okay. That's issued. See, this is the difference as opposed to, just something that is acknowledged here. Like, for example, if you have a Virginia license, which is good in Texas, that won't do any good because you have to have it issued through Texas DPS. So only a Texas license to carry will work. You must pass a psychological exam, and you got to do 80 hours through the school marshal course. And this is done through a police academy. It's done through a police academy. So it's very expensive. It's very in depth. Just to get 5 school marshals is over about $30,000. That's kind of what I guessed would be the cost to getting people through this training, and paid for and certified and all that kind of stuff. Because you got to pay for the psychological exams, you got to pay for the 80 hours of school marshals, and it's kind of nonsense. So that's the school marshal program. Now, let me go back over here to the Guardian program. The Guardian program is much more flexible. And I think this is where um, a lot of schools can save a whole lot of money. And I'll just say right up front, it's less than $2,000 at most to get 5 people certified. And obviously, the more people you get certified, the more expensive it's going to be. But we're talking less than $2,000. And I'm just going off of essentially what a course of this magnitude would likely cost. $2,000, about $500, I would say, per, not $500. What am I talking about? Yeah, about, $400 or so for 5 people, $300 to $400, because it only takes, there's like 16 hours, I think, is what the department has said is the rule. So the law here says that it's got to be anywhere from 15 to 20 hours of instruction, and I think the department rule created under this is 16 hours. So it's a 16-hour course that you've got to go through. And so what the law does under the Guardian program is you got to go to a qualified hand, and this is anybody. Remember, the Marshall program, you have to be an employee. You have to be an employee to be able uh, to fall under the Marshall program. Here, it can be anybody. So, if there are veterans or just parents who have nothing better to do with their time, they can go and try to get certified if the school board allows them to become a guardian, essentially. So a qualified handgun instructor, that handgun instructor has to be certified in school safety to be able to provide school safety. And here's what the course has to focus on. It's got to focus on protection of students, interaction with license holders with first responders. So if you've got a gun at a school and there's a shooting and you end up having to use your firearm in self-defense, or even you don't use it in self-defense, but you're going to assist first responders, how do you interact with them? In other words, how do you identify yourself? So there's a method of interaction and identification so that the trigger happy cops don't come in there and start blasting away at the good guys like they love to do. The third one, I'm sorry, is tactics for denying an intruder entry into a classroom or school facility. So that helps to secure a classroom, and then methods for increasing accuracy with a handgun while under duress, which is important because if you're in a situation, this is the way that the military trains as well, as under duress. Instead of going and shooting at a paper target, it's important that if you've got a gun anywhere that there's going to be the potential for mass casualties, that you understand how and when to fire, how and when not to fire. And then because of that stress that's going on. Now, keep in mind, I think this is kind of overstated because you're not really going to have multiple shooters generally when it comes to a school. Usually it's that lone guy. In the case of Klebold and whatever his name was, 2 people at most. But so, as far as like under duress, yeah, it's very important that you understand how to fire when you're stressed, but it's not such a huge deal because usually it's one target that you're worried about. And then you're also worried about, of course, all of the innocent bystanders, though the people who are likely to become victims should you not have that kind of accuracy. So the law requires, again, 15 to 20 hours. DPS has set it at 16. And then I'm sorry. I was wrong. For some reason I thought it was anybody. I'm thinking of something else. I was completely wrong. This one also requires you to be an employee of a school district. Okay, so you have to be an employee, not just anybody, not just veterans. You got to be an employee. I don't know what I was thinking when I said that earlier, because I even highlighted it here, and I knew that was part of my notes. I've got it on my notes right here that you have to be an employee under either one. So anyway, Yeah, Columbine had two. That was Klebold was Columbine. So you got to be an employee and you have to have a license to carry. So under both of these programs, you have to be an employee and you have to have a Texas license to carry issued under subchapter 411. Um, and then you're able to do that. Now, if you notice, there's not. This is it. This is the full law. That's it right there. Whereas the school marshal program has, it's much more specific about what you can and can't do. So the school guardian program, it's also called the school safety. What do they call it? School safety certification program is the official name of this. Is a lot more flexible in what needs to be taught, how it's taught. You actually, under the school guardian program, you actually undertake law enforcement duties, whereas in the school guardian program, you're not. If you look here, that just talks about inactivity. Anyway, and that's why I think you have to go through much more of the training under the school marshal program. But that's just it, guys. We don't need to spend millions of dollars in Texas or billions of dollars in Texas putting more cops into schools to help the pipeline of getting kids into the penal system. Okay, we don't need more of that because generally the schools are very safe, and school shootings are, even though they might seem very not very rare, they're still very rare things that happen. And so when you start putting cops into schools, what happens? These cops get bored and they think that every little infraction is a reason for them to assert their authority. Now, what I would really like, I would love to have a law to where, look, if you've got a license to carry, you can carry at the school anyway. Now, you gotta think about, in a perfect free world, even the license to carry wouldn't be necessary. But there is a historical backdrop of schools being a sensitive area and subject to more regulation than any other areas. And so, whether we like it or not, we've got to understand and recognize the reality of how that works in the schools. And so I would just like, hey, look, if you got a license to carry, you can carry that gun, because how is it any different for me being a school teacher carrying a gun and me being allowed to carry a gun anywhere else where there's a lot of people, in a busy store, at a busy park, um, anywhere that I can carry a gun, at a protest, at a parade? How is it? Why is it any different having a gun in a school? I mean, anywhere that you carry a gun, you've got to be aware of where that bullet is going to go. You've got to look behind your target to make sure that you don't accidentally hit something that you're not trying to hit. And so that's why I think in a perfect world, I'm not talking about a perfect constitutional world or a perfect free world, but in a perfect world, under the circumstances that we have them right now, you shouldn't need any of this. It should just be, look, if you've got a license to carry a gun, you can carry anywhere. It doesn't matter. Anywhere in the state, hospital, school, you name it. There should be, because you've done all the things that are supposed to ease the minds of the citizens. Do I think you need a license in your day-to-day lives? Absolutely not. That's why I fought for constitutional carry or unlicensed carry. That's why I continue to fight for that. But when we talk about sensitive areas, other than jail, I think jail would be the one exception, maybe, because in jail is the one place you don't have freedom because you're in jail. But other than that, whatever. So the question is, does the Gun-Free School Zone Act and this bill conflict with each other? No, it does not, because the Gun-Free School Zone Act does not apply to a state or to a person that has a license to carry issued by that state. So if you're in Texas and you have a Texas license to carry, the Gun-Free School Zone Act does not apply. like I said, you can carry right up to the front door of a school, and that's when Texas law applies. You know, if Texas said you could carry them onto the premises of a school, then you could even carry in there and not be violating as long as you had a license to carry. The Gun-Free School Zone Act only applies if you do not have a license to carry a firearm, or if you have a license to carry a firearm from another state that you're not in. So it doesn't apply to me here in Texas because I have a Texas license, and it doesn't apply to me in 2 other states where I also have licenses, as long as I'm in that state. So no, the Gun-Free School Zone Act does not conflict with this bill at all. Any other questions here before I get off here? I'm going to make this a short video. But what we need to do is we need to make it to where these schools cannot, there's no may, it's shall appoint or allow, school guardians. If you've got a license to carry and you're an employee for the school, a school district cannot prohibit an employee with a license to carry from carrying in self-defense. That needs to be the new standard, and that's what we're going to fight for next year. Let me just make sure there are no other questions here, and I'm going to be done. Go and talk to your school districts. I missed, there was a, here in Temple, yesterday was the Temple ISD school board meeting, but I had a long study day yesterday and I missed it. I was still studying. I had 5 hours of secured transactions training. I need to model my pants. No, not doing that. Let's see. Yeah. The having a C. Now, keep in mind that 1,000-foot rule. Yeah, the entire law doesn't apply if you've got a CHL or an LTC or whatever they call it. CPL, I think, in some places, concealed pistol license, but whatever they call it, as long as it's from that state where the school is located. And you're in that state, of course. Obviously, if the school is located in the state, you're going to be in that state. Then it doesn't apply. So that's one of the reasons also, and it also only applies. Here's the other workaround, is it also only applies to firearms that have moved in interstate commerce. One of the things I do when I do my bike rides is I carry a gun that was built right here in Temple, Texas, back before they went out of business, and it's wasn't in interstate commerce. It was built here, it was sold here, I bought it here, and therefore those laws don't apply to me there either. So I have to go under Texas law. Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you so much. That make this a quick video. You guys be safe, be free, and if there's anything else that you'd like me to do a video on, my email is always open, cj@cjgrisham.com. You can send me an email and say, hey, I've always been curious about this or that. I know some people probably didn't realize that the Safe School Zone Act doesn't apply to you if you've got a license. It doesn't. And therefore only Texas law applies, and Texas law only applies to the premises, which is the actual building. So if there are other issues that you're interested in that have to do with gun laws, rights at the federal or state level, let me know, and I will do a video for them on these channels. That's something I would really want to do, is make sure people are educated about what they can and can't do under the law. Granted, the Constitution is different. But anyway, y'all take care, be safe, be free. I'll see you next time.